Hello, this is Cuckoo. How are you? I hope you're good. I'm actually pretty good today. I'm relieved that my gig went well. The premiere of my show with the Digitone and visuals went really well. I've performed the set 2 times now. Once at the Animation Festival in Fredrikstad, and it was a festival full of people, open-minded and hungry for creativity, and they were so open to take it in, all of what I had to show and play. And that was such a cool vibe. And then later on, a week later, I performed here at my home club, in the same house that I'm recording this, at the Mir Club in Oslo. All of you who came, I think we had like a really great time together. So I had like 2 sides of the show now, one full medium large hall and then one smaller club, and it works well in both cases. So I'm so relieved and so happy that it turned out well. So in this video here, I want to talk about the technicalities of the set. I'm going to show you how I created the set and how I set it up in Unity 3D. And I'm probably not going to go into like the deepest detail, but I've created a tutorial for how to get going with Unity and Video Lab that I was using, and how to make your own MIDI sequenced visuals in Unity. And the coolest thing with Unity is that once you set up, once everything is done, it's moving, behaving as you want it to do, you compile it and build it into your own native app. So now on my desktop, I've got my own app for my own show. It's not a third-party app that I'm using. It's my own app, and that's so cool. That's really actually very cool. And I know that all the resources are optimized for my show. I'm not using a huge library of other resources that I won't use. So that's very cool. Well, I'm gonna head into Unity and show you what it all looks like, and yeah, hang out with you. And if you are wondering about something specific, hit me up in the comments. And as always, thank you everyone supporting me on Patreon. You could be a patron too if you want to support my work. Do that. I highly appreciate all the support I could get from Patreon. So thank you. Let's go. All right, so here we go. We've got the computer, we've got the Digitone, and we've got you, most important of all. Hello. So let's, as you can see, my computer is still in like performance show mode, black background, just one icon on the desktop, and it's the Cuckoo Live. Yeah, there it is, ready to go. I'm not going to open that. Instead, I'm going to open Unity Hub. And by the way, I'm running the Digitone with MIDI via USB. So via USB, straight into the computer. And I did that during the show too, just to minimize the amount of gear involved. I wasn't using any MIDI interface, anything, just straight to the computer. So here we go. We got the non-binary code, which is my project name for this whole project, NBC, non-binary code. And if you've been following this little mini-series leading up to this, you saw me writing a script, or not a script, but like a treatment, a story plot, or an outline of a little idea very early on. And so where is that script now? Well, that script served as a great inspiration for me, and I was trying to kind of gather inspiration and little snippets from that, and then during the actual show and what the final product was like and the final expression, if you can feel that there is something larger behind all of this, then it is all worth it writing that script beforehand. And I think that a lot of people came up to me afterwards, said like, ooh, they kind of couldn't put it into words, but they felt that. and they wanted to see more of this. And you follow these characters around, and who are they, and what's going on, and this is enough when it comes to visuals. With visuals to show, you don't want to override anyone's interpretation. You don't want to override the music. You don't want to serve everything on a silver plate, like this is the way you're supposed to feel now, take it. No, you want to leave everything up to the people watching and listening, and have them interpret and create their own emotional response to what's being presented. At least that's how I feel. You don't want to override and overpopulate their senses with too much, because then it's gonna kind of fall flat, in my opinion. All right, so here we go. So over here, we got everything that is in the scene. Got an idle beginning, a title, scene 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are songs, so every song has its own scene. And a scene is just, in Unity, a game object that I turn on and I turn off. And in the game object, there is a camera, there's animation, there is all the video lab. Everything is inside one of these. So this is what the beginning of the show is like, when it's just waiting for me to go on stage. Maybe there's a DJ, and I wanted to have like an animation that is kind of presenting my name and has a little activity and looks a bit nice. So what I did, as we can see here, I made my name there out of wonky boxes that are all a little bit skewed, and I placed them in an arrangement that looked like my name, my stage name. And then I took these lights and I animated them, as you can see here, just in a very subtle way, animation. And if we press play now, there you go. Animation starts running. We can see here in the camera, got a full screen. So this is kind of the waiting mode for my show. I wanted to have like a little smooth, nice something that's kind of mysterious. And actually later on, I think I'm going to build a little bit more on this, maybe even make some sort of reactive, something that reacts a little bit to audio maybe. So if the DJ is playing something, maybe we can even see some activity based on the audio. But this is what meets the eye. So how did I do that? Let's see. In this, well, this is actually a real scene, what is called a scene in Unity. But I call these scenes that I'm using here, but these are just game objects that are just switched on and off. All right, so let's start out with the very basics here. How do I make a scene select master that selects the different types, the different game objects, and switches them on while they switch the others off? Well, we have to go into the clack patch. And if you watch my initial tutorial on how to get going with Video Lab, you know what a clack patch is. Basically, it's the environment where you can create interactivity between MIDI and the game objects and animations and Unity without programming. It's a modular environment. So let's open the patcher here and see what that simple main scene selector master patch looks like. And we're going to get into technical details right from the get-go here. So so you're ready for that. Basically, I have a MIDI note coming in. I catch that MIDI note number and I send that to a selector. And the selector is going to select any of these game objects, scenes that I call them, and turn them on while turning the others off. Is a selector. Select this while the others are off. So the first thing I'm doing is that I'm detecting a MIDI note. Which note is it? It's note number 72, which is the C6 note. All right, C6 note is gonna be the first note in this selector. And then the higher up I go on the notes keyboard, the further down on the list I go. So C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, and so forth. So all of these are going to select a number. And sometimes you need to be a little bit tricky. I didn't understand a way to get C6, like a high C, to be to become number 1. So I needed to invent a way to convert the first octave of selections there to become actually number 1 of the list. So I needed to do a float mix where I feed a negative 72 value into that float mix, basically making the whole MIDI note value start at 0. So that's exactly what I wanted to do. And then, so sometimes you need to just invent tricky solutions like that. Sometimes meaning all the time. And you get into it and you start to understand it. This here is just something that is not needed. Just, I could delete it. Cool. So that's our scene selector. So it's selecting and muting different scenes. Let's try to do that and see what happens. I'm going to play. And I'm going to keep an eye on the list here. And we're going to go to our MIDI channel 4, which is the one that is sending out scene selector. We're going to head to octave 6. Is that this or this? I can't remember that. Okay, let's try it out. So if I press C here, yeah, scene 1 at the beginning, scene 0. This one, the next scene. This one, D, next scene, and so forth. And all of these scenes, they're just waiting. They're just waiting for MIDI inputs. They're in the state where some stuff is being animated and some stuff is just waiting to get like MIDI inputs so that it becomes alive, right? And then maybe in the end I could go back here. So that's my scene selector. It's not really what's called scenes in Unity. It's just game objects within the actual scene. Cool. So let's pick a scene. Let's see which one could be cool. This one first. Okay. So this here is a long tunnel. You can see there's tons of lights in there. All these light bulbs here. Tons of lights. It's a tunnel that is leading all the way to this character here. Okay, let's see. And I've placed the character. It's a 2D character, but as you can see, the perspective changes, and I've placed all the 2D elements in 3D space. So it's like a little bit in 3D. You got a 3D impression. It is in 3D, just flat objects, flat sprites in 3D. And also I had to go through a lot of stuff in order to make the sprite catch shadows, but there is tutorials for everything on YouTube, so I found a solution for it, which is good. Cool. So as you can see, there's a bunch of lasers here, and right now all of these lasers are on, they're turned on, and also outside of this room there's these yellow boxes here, and these are also lasers, the yellow lasers that's gonna come in through the walls. Let's play this scene and just have a feel for it with the music. I'm gonna show you here. So I'm gonna play, make it full screen. I'm gonna play the intro. Yeah, you see the intro there, nice and waiting. So we got song 7. So I think this should be it. So let's see when I start it and see if it. Yeah, there we go. All right. So this is what we've got. So you can see all the lasers, the flashing in sync. We've got a nice light there on this character. got like a little effect there. Dynamic shadows. Yeah. If we at the same time check out the actual scene there, it's a bit wonky because I'm going from top down. I'm not going in this direction, I'm going this direction. So camera controls are a little bit wonky. So we can see one object there moving, and that's the camera. Maybe I should do the 3D icons. Yeah, like so. Better. So we can see there, I've attached lights to the camera. So the camera is moving and lights are following the camera. So what we see here on the sides is the light following the camera. And then on the different MIDI channels, I can perform different things. So MIDI channel 1, let's try the basic notes here and see what happens. Seemingly nothing. I think there is stuff happening. Yeah. On note number 2, I'm dropping some boxes. I think that's pretty cool. And the more boxes you drop, the more full it gets. So it's at the end of this song, it's going to be like super, super cramped in there. And it's going to feel very, very, cramped and not very nice. I can delete all the boxes like so. I can. So once we get closer again, there is actually something happening when I play the notes here. I made some invisible physical objects to kind of poke at the boxes. So once we get closer, I'm going to show you. Here we go. Here we go. Full of boxes. So I'm going to press some notes. Every time I press a note, I'm bumping and kind of moving the boxes. So I can create a little chaos there. I can do that in the rhythm. So let's see on the actual sequencer. On this track, nothing is sequenced on track number 1 because so far in the song, this is just the intro. I haven't introduced the boxes yet. Let's delete the boxes and play. We can see some lasers, right? So they must be on another channel. So let's check out channel number 2. Yeah, we got the yellow lasers on track number 2. So what's going on here is that I'm using those yellow things here, and I'm stretching them out. And as you can see, if you have a keen eye, you can also see that there is a light there, and the light moves when you stretch the shape of the game object that these lasers are in. So the idea was to have a sort of a uncomfortable feeling of something shooting through the tunnel there. And then we got this track number 3. We've got other lasers. Let's see. We've got the red lasers, and they also have lights. So red lights coming, accompanying and actually chose to fade in the light, as you can see, where the yellow light is more abrupt and just moves in. These actually fade in. So far in the song, just doing this one. I'm doing one more thing. You can see a little effect on the camera on the whole picture, and that is on track number 4. I divided these up. Track number 4, scene selections and camera effects. 1, 2, and 3, main stuff. If there is physics and objects that is being dropped, it's all on track number 1. Also on track number 1, I have lights. So I've animated lights that I can flash in different directions. Let's find it. I think it's number 5. Yeah. If I keep this pressed, you can see that there's an animated light casting weird shadows. Every time I press it, it's jumping to a different place in the animation. The animation of the light is very long. So I can actually flash this according to the music. Yeah, so let's listen to the next track and see what I animated there. I introduced the boxes, and we can also see that the lasers, at least the yellow lasers, they also impact the boxes with physics. So there's physical objects on the boxes and physical objects on the lasers. So if I flash a laser here, you can see that the boxes move away from the lasers. So what about this effect? Well, on track 4, let's see, I think I put it 1 octave down, maybe. Yeah, I put this effect here, which is one of the effects coming, I think it's called analog distortion or something. Yeah, got different effects there. And the more effects you use, the more I feel like it gets more and more recognizable. So I try to stay low on the effects because I don't want it like super recognizable. I just want it very basic. So I play around with lights, design, a subtle storytelling, and I stay low on effects. Just a tad. Okay, so if I move forward to the next track here, I even flash some of the red ones. I really love how the yellow stands against this blue, and then the evil red comes in. And here's just mayhem. And if I press page here, or the fill, got my koto coming in. And I think this works really well as a backdrop because I'm keeping the storytelling very, very low, and I'm creating an overall stage feel with this mess. And going in and out, you have the camera animation going in and out, and maybe potentially creating more and more of these boxes, creating like a chaos on stage. And when you come in, it's such a nice vibe. And I'm, depending on the size of the projections, I'm about this tall on stage. And in the second concert, I place myself here. The first concert, I place myself right in the middle. So it becomes a little connection. I'm actually in this projection. I feel like I stand there inside of this room that's creating that. And also on the musical side, I told you that I'm kind of destroying the project throughout the concert. So this is a place in the music where I head over to the musical part of the digiton. I hold this, Control All, go into the synth here, maybe mess around with the FM parameters. Let's see what happens. More longer envelopes, longer attack, mysterious. Go to synth engine and mess with the pitch. Head over there again, make it short again. Maybe I make the envelopes really short. Head over to the amp section and send more reverb and delay. Less delay. Go to the filter even, maybe erase this envelope, and all accompanied by this. I even go to synth and change the detune, the feedback. And just mess it up. But you need to listen very carefully so you're still staying in the mood. Listen to that. And then maybe head into the end. And then you created something. It was just a pattern. It was looping and looping and looping. But because of this irregularity in the backdrop and the irregularity in the way you can just mess it up, you can create an evolving, progressive piece of expression that is very much beyond what could be sequenced. Because this is something that you can live manipulate and yeah, you can create a whole different expression every time you perform this. And I love the kind of wonky characteristics of FM synthesis and of the Digiton, where you not fully know exactly what's going to happen when you go in there and change everything, but because you know the engines and you know kind of what to expect, you can mold it and create a path for yourself. So basically what I'm doing, I'm first changing the FM envelopes on the Synth 2 page and change the length of the release and the level of the FM modulation. That is my first go-to place. And to get even wonkier, you go to the first synth page and change the tuning of the different operators. And to do that on the fly, I'm finding it extremely, extremely much fun. So if we're to stop this now and take a look at the actual technicalities of this, I mean, at a conceptual stage, I think it's easy to explain. So I've got this wall here, a couple of walls. I've got some different shapes that help me create interesting shadows when the light is moving. And then I turn stuff on and off, fade stuff in and out, these red lights. These are stretching to create a laser-like experience. If I were to stretch it, it's the group that stretches. Yeah, like so. And we can see the actual physical objects that are coming in and bumping the hole. It's very irregular, but the physical objects, the green box there, is what's creating a lot of mess there. Should we go deeper and explain it in more detail? Yeah, let's check out some different things that I've done here. Let's see. So we got this scene that I want to show you now. Let's start with the camera. Open up the camera parent here, and we can see that the camera has a bunch of stuff. We've got a camera parent, camera animation, camera MIDI ortho, MIDI zoom, main camera, camera fader. So all of these things are in a parented hierarchy. So I think somewhere here on this one there is an animator object. So this layer of the camera is animated. Let's check out the animation. Let's see. Camera animation. Here we go. So the one we saw when it was kind of idle and we saw the lights kind of following down the camera, this is that animation. So it's not just going exactly straight down and up. I animated it slightly a bit like this. Let's see if I turn off the fade in object here, camera fader, we can actually see the camera object, camera animation. Let's see. So I animated the yeah, I made it look kind of interesting, like it's kind of avoiding all these lasers as if they were some sort of alarm to trigger some alarm. Oops, I crossed the laser there. Alarm going off. Yeah, and I could preview the animation right here, so we can see it. Check it out. Oops, sorry. And the lights on the side here actually need the widescreen to actually see that. Yeah. So that's the basic idle animation of the camera. And this one just loops and loops and loops. And I have no idea how long it is or if it corresponds to the music. I could, if I wanted to, send a message to this animation and say, jump to a specific place. Like, jump there, jump there. I could do that. That could be like a really, really harsh and cool way to change the musical expression in time to the sequencer. So imagine this. It's like, let's see. Let's go to. Let's go like this. And jump there. That could be really cool. And when I do that, I could either just jump to a random place in the sequencer and continue from there, or I could do jump to a specific place that I know, like at this place in the music, I always want to go to a close-up. And then, you figure out, all right, it's about there, and you send a message to the sequencer to jump there. But in this case, I'm not doing that. I'm just letting it run. Cool. So then we got the MIDI ortho, which is, am I using that? I might. I'm not sure. The idea is to have a layer of the camera parenting to affect through MIDI. And in several of the scenes, I'm doing that. In this one, let's see, I'm going to open up the clack object called MIDI cam. Open patcher. So here, in this clack object that is doing MIDI camera related programming, I'm sending this animation. Look at this curve here. This is an animation curve. You can think of this as an LFO with a custom shape. And this, let's see, zoom. This one is just, basically like an LFO. I'm sending this value over time to the MIDI ortho group. And I'm sending it specifically to rotation. I created one of these values and then a second of a similar value that is of a different speed, so they never really meet in the same tempo. And I send them to Y and X rotation on the camera in order to create a little bit more irregularity of the camera where it's kind of tilting, which I think is fun. Always fun to spice it up with some irregularities, if you ask me. Another thing I'm doing in that camera control patch, I have knob input number 70, which is this first knob here. Keep it pressed and see the note numbers or the CC values. I've set it up to send to the MIDI zoom. Let's just let it run there and try it out. So track 4, and we'll go to these. Not sure if I'm actually, well, let's see when it comes close. Maybe I'm moving further. Yeah, I'm moving too close. So this is the maximum value. This is the closest that I actually want to use. This is just a leftover from an earlier scene, but I could actually use this to zoom even further in, which I'm not doing in this case, but it's just a leftover from the previous scene. Just copy it and Yeah, so it's working. The zoom is working. So that's the camera. Let's see the gravity that works, because I had to really learn something new there in order to place the boxes out into the world. Okay, so the boxes are falling down. I had to really learn something new there, and I had to learn how to spawn objects and let them fall out, and then how to destroy and kill those objects. Because when you're dealing with spawning objects, if you're not careful, you can run out of memory, run out of resources. Maybe they just fall and keep building up, and you run out of processing power because it's suddenly a million of them on stage and it crashes. So you need to be a little bit considerate when setting up stuff like that with and set some sort of limits for yourself. So I had to investigate the object called spawner. I'm spawning an object. Let's press it. This is the object. It's actually just let's see, a cube. Here's a cube. I'm not sure I'm doing this right, but it's a rigid body, so I've attached a rigid body to it, so whenever it appears in the world, it starts to adhere to gravity, so it falls. And it has a box collider. It's the self-destruction that I really had to learn how it worked. But basically, I detect when this object is within the range of another object, which I'm calling kind of the cube spawn destructor. And when it is, that object will be destructed. So I'm spawning a number of copies of this object. It starts to fall. It's a rigid object, so they start to kind of build up a little tower at the bottom of the tower there. And then once it reaches over a certain level, they will disappear, because I've got like another object there, and if it comes in proximity of that object, they disappear, just to be safe. And also underneath, if they happen to fall out, they also get destructed if they're too far away. So how do I trig that? That's a good question. Thank you for asking. Let's go to this, let's see, spawn patch. Also clack patch. As you can see, you can have multiple patches. You don't have to have like one super large master patch. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you can divide them up, and it'll be much easier to manage. So here we've got channel 1 MIDI note number 1. When that is detected and pressed, it will send a value. The floating point value of the velocity will be sent out to the spawner, which is there, and we'll catch the actual spawner script that is currently on the spawner, and it will set the spawn rate accordingly. So if this is sending out an on value of 50, and the spawner will set the spawn rate to 50 and start spawning the cube. That's essentially what's happening. So it's spawning and it's starting to spawn, and when you release the button, it returns to 0, no spawning. So I could do that in time to the music. I can kind of fill up gradually at some place in the music and place that little note value on the sequencer, and you will all kind of feel like it all belongs in the same music and world. And then the same thing when I want to destroy all of the boxes out there. I'm taking note number 63, which is a D sharp. Setting, I'm changing the position, the Y position of the destruct object, so that it comes in closer proximity to the boxes, and when it comes closer, it just destroys everything that is very close, and or maybe it was the other way around, if it gets further away. Yeah, can't remember that. Yeah, so that's how I did the spawn. Let's just enjoy the spawn one more time, shall we? So let's go here. We could probably watch the spawning happening in real time here from the side. Yeah, you can see a lot of spawning there. It's from channel number 1. Let's spawn. Yeah, just filling up. Oh yeah, this is the one, the pattern that we kind of destroyed. Let's reload. So at any time now I can hit the other note and destroy all of the boxes there. Yeah? Yeah? Are you with me? I know it's a little technical. It's very technical, but if you watch my previous tutorial, which is now maybe 2 years old. Is it 2 years ago I started with VideoLab? Or 1 year? Can't remember. It was actually very cumbersome to get into because Unity is huge, and I was afraid that I had to learn everything in Unity, but I didn't. You don't have to learn everything in Unity to create something like that. You need to learn VideoLab and the clack system. You need to learn animations, and in order to have fun with physicalities and the gravity, you need to learn rigid bodies, how they work. Yeah, well, basically everything is a variation of this. It's sprites, 3D objects, and I turn them on and turn them off. I stretch things. I send values all over. I actually made a system for myself just in order to have some sort of structure. So I made this. We got the different MIDI channels here. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do I want to control on every MIDI channel and every channel on the digitone? So I filled these out. So here, note number 73 and 4th, I'm doing these scene changes, and I got the analog glitch. I got some other effects here. On this, I'm doing the lasers, and I try to stay more or less consistent between the songs, so I'm not changing completely. I want to do scene changes on track 4 every time, so that it's consistent. Yeah. It's good to have a structure, but afterwards, after some time, I got more and more stressed, and I stopped filling out this form. But by then, I already had a structure, and I was following that. Yeah, I want to maybe also go ahead and show some of the animation, of the 2D animation. Let's see. I have a background as an animator, and when I was doing animation, I was working professionally in Harmony, Toon Boom Harmony, which is a very full-fledged studio production animation software. And it's totally overkill for what I'm doing here, but still, since that is the software that I know, it's what I used for this. So we've got a scene here where we have this dude, and he's just turning around. Let's see. There we go. So this animation, I enjoy working with Toon Boom because it's a vector based. I really enjoy working with vector, and the good thing with vector is that even now, after this is animated and filled and we've got lines and everything, I can still now go into the color of Diane. We can go into the outline here. Show that. Yeah, there's the outline color. I can change it afterwards. I can go into that, any color that is being used, and change that color. Like this gradient, for instance, it's in the kimono. And say, okay, I want it to be a gradient to this much darker color. It's just very convenient. And also there's a bunch of really, really useful tools when you want to create something more advanced, like masking stuff. There's a very rich node view. But for this, to be honest, totally overkill to use the whole, like the full suite. I could probably use the much cheaper ones. And I paid for 2 months of this in order to get going with this project. But I probably should have just used the cheaper version, to be honest. So what I did with this animation, you remember that it was actually placed in 3D so that it has some perspective to it. So here it's just in 2D. It's just all of these objects are separate. And I did that because I wanted to place them out in 3D space. This animation. No, that's the wrong one. Yeah, this one. Really happy with this one. So this animation, I haven't shown it now, but it's one of the animations where he's running and there is a long street and he's running on the street. It's just a 2D animation, but I thought it was really cool to make like a really hectic run cycle and then place that in 3D. And then in 3D it looks like this. So now, as one of the last scenes, it's having a more effect-based last performance. Now, shining a light with shadows. I could probably mute the effects just so you see it. Yeah, I think it turned out really nice, actually. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, so it took some time, but to be honest, once you're up to speed and once you believe in your idea, and once you're there and you're fully starting to produce, that's when you can start speeding up. You know what to do and you're confident about what you're doing. So I had a very long startup phase where I wasn't fully confident in the idea, and it took some time. It took some time to come to terms with everything, and now, even though I had to reuse lots of scenes for the show, I can still go in now and like update it, create a new scene for the next time I perform this. Which I'm very much encouraged to do. Yeah. So that's it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy these kind of deep dives. Even though this is not a tutorial, maybe get like an overview of what I've gone through to make all of this, and also what it takes to make something like this. You can create something much simpler than this. Just and have something very, very lively on stage. Once stuff starts to react to MIDI and you can sequence MIDI on your music device like the Digitone, it becomes so much more engaging. And once you start to work with physics, that is also creating a whole different type of mess, which is so nice. I think it's so nice to have a messy physical presence on stage, because it's living its own life in a way that you cannot fully predict. And also you can start playing around with very carefully placed physical objects that can start bouncing, start hanging, dangling in a way that is making musical sense to the show. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I hope to see you soon again. If you enjoy what I'm doing here on YouTube, please consider throwing in a donation. over at my Patreon. Check out my Patreon. This is something that I'm showing you for free on YouTube, but if you really appreciate it, you can support me. Some stuff I do not show widely on YouTube, like for instance the full performance of my first show. I'm showing that only to my patrons for now. Maybe at some point I will show it to everyone, but I'm not sure. Maybe I won't. I picked out a few of the songs to show for everyone on YouTube, but the full performance only for my patrons. So stuff like that is something that I sometimes just present only to my patrons. So if you're into that, please join in my Patreon, support me there, and I'm happy to have you. You always have access to all of my downloads and also to my Discord server, which is a chill place for everyone to join and hang out and share whatever you want with each other and with me. Yeah. Peace out, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and see you soon again. Peace.